Hey y'all, Mike with Cardboard Kingdom. Welcome back to another Disney Lorcana video. I hope you and yours are doing well. I am doing amazing. Today we're going to talk about the best investments for Fabled, a little Reddit post here, which I think is, I got ahead of it because it's only 8 minutes old and it's directly in correlation with what I was going to talk about today. So it's very just timely. But this person says, Sneaky Turtle says, best Fabled set investment. Hi everyone, this is my first post here. I'm wondering what the best investment in the Fabled set is aside from iconic Mickey and Minnie. I'm a collector and have been asking for Enchanted and will be asking for Enchanted cards for Christmas. It's my understanding the competitive scene heavily dictates prices. Smart person. If that's the case, should I wait a while before collecting the Dumbo Enchanted and focus on others for now? TLDR, interested in hearing your thoughts on best investments in Fabled set. If it's better to buy Dumbo Enchanted right away or wait. So I'm a couple things here. So first and foremost, this is the r/Lorcana Reddit. This Reddit is very much filled with players. Now there's an r/Lorcana collectors Reddit that talks more about, the kind of things that we talk about on this channel. So first and foremost, this thread is about to get demolished by, people who play the game, who despise anyone who collects the game or thinks these cards shouldn't have value. So that's just number one. It's going to be funny. I love looking at people who get very mad about those of us who enjoy these things and think that there should be a value attributed to them. I'll never be that spiteful to be mad at someone what someone else values. But nevertheless, it'll be very, very funny. In terms of, when you talk about Fabled as an investment, what we're going to look at here is really Fabled starting to soften in terms of sealed prices, iconics a little bit, enchanted prices. Now, not significantly, right? I'm not going to say it's crashing, but I think that, a lot of whenever Fabled first came out in those first couple weeks, it was hitting $200 a box, and I was kind of telling everyone to chill, look, this is not going to stay. I think that it's, now we're starting to see it kind of hit not lows, but it's starting to get a little bit cheaper. And I think now is really the time. You don't even necessarily want to be buying it now, in my opinion. I think you want to wait still a couple months from here. But this is kind of the idea of how to properly play these things, in my opinion. And so we'll start to kind of look at Fabled off the back of this, and then I want to end the video with something I think that Lorcana does better than Magic by a mile, for any of the Magic the Gathering fans out there. So the iconics, Mickey sitting around 1,400, market price of 1,270, but lowest, that's always a lagging indicator. Lowest on the market 1,400, so down $100, pretty much staying the same. Minnie was up at around 1,000 last week, currently down around 836, so a little bit of regression there, nothing crazy, 10%. But then you have some of the playable enchanteds like Dumbo and Hades still doing very well. My favorite use case from the set, Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard. This card is not being used in any decks. It is just very simply a really cool card, a really cool IP, and it's just an amazing piece of art. And so this is kind of the collectors and the people who just love this IP, buying the card, keeping the card. Essentially there's just not a lot of them on the market. Only 14 listings. So that's a testament to just Fabled as a whole. And why I think that Fabled, when you apply a long time horizon to it, talking multiple years, 5 years, etc., this set is going to do very, very well into the future, especially when it's out of rotation and we know that it's not going to be reprinted, which is going to be about a year from now. This set is going to be, or no, I guess it's 2 years from now, right? Because this was the first set of the rotation. Now look, that's not to say that I think it's going to be reprinted, but in a couple of years from now, I think that there's even much sooner than that, there's going to be a good future for Fabled. Now, obviously, it's got the Dumbo in it, which was a really, really playable legendary. People are starting to soften on Dumbo down to under $40. But when you look at the Enchanteds, Mulan, Considerate, Diplomat is the floor Enchanted at $70. Now this card is, this card not being used in the game. It's, people obviously, there's 38 of them listed. This is by far the most listed Enchanted in the entire set. Actually, no, some of the even playable ones are getting listed more. So interesting there that Lilo is up at 43. I was thinking about the Mickey, the Minnie, Dumbo, etc. But then randomly Lilo's at 43 for whatever that means. And I guess Beast is up there too. But then you look at cards like Pongo and there's only 9, so it's kind of inconsistent there. But there's a ton of them on the market. $70 is the floor. When you compare that price in terms of the least valuable Enchanted to some of the other sets where it's Rise of the Floodborn, Into the Inklings, or even some of the newer sets with Reign of Jafar and Arcasia's Island, they're the least valuable Enchanted a lot of times is like sub $30. And so the fact that $70 is the floor gives me a lot of encouragement, right? For these Enchanteds. They obviously went with a whole new design for Fabled. I think it's by far the best, in terms of just like Enchanted roster. When you look at the most valuable in terms of Dumbo or the least valuable in terms of Mulan, like Fabled stacks up against any set. The Ariel's gorgeous, Circle of Life, like there's just so many good cards in the set. And I think on top of that, obviously you have the Iconics, right? Introduction to those, their first set that they're included in. Fabled as a whole is going to be an absolute, killer investment. It's just an awesome set, right? Top to bottom. Now, when we look at the sealed side of things for Fabled, we're really starting to soften on this. And I think that that's going to lead to softer single prices as well, whether that's the Iconics, that's the Enchanteds. We're down to 130 per box right now, which, from the highs, we're at 200, lows, we're at 119. So we're kind of slowly creeping back down to the cheapest we ever saw this box. And I think that we are going to continue to trend in that direction. There's 372 on the market. There's still an average daily sale rate of 24, so they're still getting bought very, very heavily. But I think that buying it now makes a lot more sense, and I think waiting a couple months even makes even more sense when it comes to the sealed game. Because keep in mind, guys, Ravensburger is going to look out for the players. They're going to make sure that those Dumbos are affordable. They're going to make sure that the product's readily available for a good amount of time. And so if this box, let's say those 300 that are for sale, if those all get bought out over the next, month or two, that's going to signal to Ravensburger that, hey, we probably need to do another print run of this set, right? And so I think that you run that risk if this gets too expensive too quick, because they want to make sure that the Dumbos are available, there's enough Enchanteds out there, etc. Just, cards for people to play the game, right? It is a game after all. So I think that that's something that you have to kind of be considerate about. But once again, we're not there yet. I have no reason to think that it's going to be any sort of reprint. They've continued to release it. Obviously, we have, over 300 on TCG Player now. So LGSs have continued to get it. In addition to that, we saw that Amazon listing that we were tracking that had over 400 boxes. I think at the beginning it had nearly 500, and then that kind of got bought down. So they've continued to release product. There's been ample amount continued to be supplied on the market, and I think we're going to continue to see it sell through at a very high rate. And it's but I do think that price is going to weaken a little bit here. And the same could be said for all of the singles. I think better times are ahead for buyers here. Guys, this set is still the most recent set. What's going to happen whenever people start looking at Whispers in the Well or start looking at Winter Spell and really start looking at some of as the spotlight changes and this hot new thing, we get into the Pixar set, and degenerates like me are like try to pay top dollar for like a Buzz Enchanted and a Woody Enchanted. That's the time to go look at Fabled, right? When we're all looking at the shiny new toy that we're about to get in these upcoming sets. And so Fabled's still the current set. So I would just, I've been preaching caution. I would advise to preach caution. Now, if you're asking for, Christmas presents and you're trying to get these cards, whatever, I think that starting with Enchanteds that you like, irregardless of price, is going to be your best bet. Now, look, if you want to go out and get the Dumbo, then, fair play to you. I would definitely advise waiting, right? As this card continues to get pushed out of the meta. It's going to be available for probably less than $100 at some point. That would be my guess. And the same thing is going to be said for all of these cards as they continue to be open. More and more come onto the market. We're going to see these prices soften. Now, how much are they going to soften? Your guess is as good as mine. But I do think better times are ahead for these cards just simply because of the supply. Now, obviously, I believe that Fabled has a lot more demand than previous sets, so maybe these are the lows, right? I just tend to lead the better times are ahead. It's a brand new set. So if you're going to be investing in cards, I think going out and getting, iconic IPs that you like the Mickey Mouse Steamboat Pilot possibly, like Circle of Life is definitely, like if I were buying Fabled Enchanted, this would be the top of my list, something like Jasmine, right? But ultimately, it comes down to what cards do you like when you talk about, what's the best investment in Fabled for me to make. I want individual Enchanted cards. Go out and get your Iconics. Get your Enchanteds that you like whatever. Maybe you like the Goofy movie and you like the Max Goof Chart Topper, sick card, Powerline, World's Greatest Rock Star. Maybe you like Ariel, Little Mermaid. There's so many different IPs here, so many different options here. But I would just advise to stick to some of the cards that are lower on the list. Apart from, once again, a card like Winnie, I think is just gonna have a good price because it's a really, really awesome card. But really everything else, not talking about the iconics, those are obviously very inherently collectible. But Dumbo, Hades, Lilo, Bell, Scar, Eye to Eye, Max Goof, and Powerline to a certain extent. If you love Powerline, I would say it's fine. But those would be the ones that I would kind of lean to avoid. Cards like Winnie the Pooh, Ariel, Circle of Life, Jasmine, and through the rest, I think make a ton of sense at their current price. That's not to say that they're not going to go down. I think there's a world where all of these cards go down, right? But if you want Fabled cards, and this is, where you're looking to invest your money, I think you need to avoid the ones that are very heavily utilized in the game. Cream of the crop, absolute best purchases, obviously going to be your Mickey and your Minnie. And then obviously you could always go the sealed route, right? Like, I think that there's going to be better times ahead for a booster box of Fabled. I don't think 130 is the floor price that we see from here to eternity. I think we're probably going to see it get closer to this 119 number, maybe even close to 110. I think there will be enormous buy pressure if it does get that low. So I can't really see it ever getting like sub 100 for a consistent time frame, maybe a box or two here or there. But so that would be my lean in terms of investment. Like, wait a couple months. Obviously, Christmas is a couple months from now, but as we get into Winter Spell and as we get into Pixar, I think Fable is going to be in a great spot at even Whispers in the Well, right? You picked the right place to enter, but I was, when the boxes were $200 a piece, I was preaching patience, and I'm preaching the same thing now. Avoid the cards that are being used in the game, and go out and get yourself either some sealed booster boxes or some individual enchanted cards or iconics that just iconics are fine, either one, but get you some enchanteds that aren't being used in the game. Like, I mean, these cards are so cool. So many, like, they're all just good, right? Like, I mean, my least favorite, probably Mulan, maybe Pongo. But I even love the Cruella art. Like, it looks so cool. Like, that's just a well designed card. And so this, piggybacking off of this is what gets me into what I feel like Lorcana does so much better than Magic. For those of you who are not aware, I love Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've got their very first trading cards. I've got sealed product. I've got I just love the IP of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I've got a long connection there. So I was very excited whenever Magic announced that they were going to be doing a partnership with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't care for Magic, but I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, if I can get a cool Leonardo card or something, like, they might even get me to open a booster box, right? Like, I wouldn't outright reject it. And then I come to look at these cards, and like, as someone who doesn't play Magic and has no interest in the game, these just do not have the art aesthetic to them that I feel like a Lorcana card does, right? Like, even these like alt arts that they're advertising, I would imagine these are like some of the best, like, cards in terms of art. Like, they all are very, very heavily still, like, game pieces in terms of like the text being on, like, the most prominent thing, all these different emblems on them. Like, it doesn't, I can't really see it as a piece of art. Or I look at something like either the Cruella or, the Winnie the Pooh is a great example. Like, this is a card that you don't have to be in Lorcana to love this card. Like, you can just very simply love Winnie the Pooh. And I think that that's something that Lorcana, like, this is a piece of art, right? Just a very well illustrated card. And the flavor text or the, the keywords and the title and everything, like, it's not so overwhelming that, like, you can't just enjoy it as the piece of art that it is. For something like the, the Leonardo here, Leonardo the Balance, like, it just, it's a playing card, right? And that's not bad. That's what Magic is. And obviously a ton of people will love this set and use these cards, whatever. It's just simply not for me. And so I was kind of bummed to see those. I was very excited for them because I love the IP itself. But yeah, I was a little bit bummed whenever I saw how those are pictured on the card. So with that being said, best thing to invest in Fabled is going to be some sealed product. If you have to get it right now, I would advise waiting in general for everything, but focus on your enchanteds that are a little bit closer to the bottom of the page. Max purchase would be maybe the Winnie or the Ariel, and then kind of down from there, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, buy whatever you like, man. Whatever the best investment is going to be what you like. That you're not checking the price every day. Cards that you enjoy. That's the recipe for success. Get you some cards that you look at and you say, "Damn, that's like a really really cool card." Get you some of those, and then that's the path to freedom. Recently, I've had some success selling some PSA 10 D23 Brave Little Tailors from 2024 cards that I was buying for $30-$40 a pop, grading them for $10. They grade extremely well. I've got a stack of PSA 10s that are selling at $300 a piece. Like that's fun. Like I love those cards, but I love them at 30. I don't necessarily love them as much as someone at 300 right now. Now that's not to say that I'm selling all of them. I've sold a couple, and that's been a nice little couple sales in there if you've made it this far in the video. So thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll be back with another video soon. Goodbye.